I used to be in a very dark place for like more than 10 years. I used to take cocaine, ecstasy, weed, tobacco, alcohol, and whatever drugs that would pass in front of my eyes on a daily basis. I would literally wake up and start taking drugs from like the hour after my wake up. And sometimes I would just finish the joint I would have from the day before up and wake up. And I spent a lot of time not achieving anything special in my life. I was doing things, but then, like I was really feeling super bad. I was just constantly into a sense of lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth. But then one day my life shifted, and without much help in the beginning, I really started transforming myself. And then at one point I felt like I wanted to give back, because at the time I was watching a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube videos, everything on social media was just like inspiration. And while I was recovering for myself, I always had this idea in the back of my mind: one day I will be the guy who is on the podcast inspiring the next person. And that's what I believe. I believe that if everybody inspire at least one person in their life, we will change the world. You don't have to help 10,000 people to be someone good. If you help one person, you're already good. And if you do that every day a little bit, you just like change the world. And that's the main reason why I'm here. I'm here because whatever problem you have today, it doesn't have to be like that next year. It might seem hard to overcome. When I used to be addicted to cocaine, I believe the only way for me to be happy in my life was by taking cocaine. And today I realized that I was very wrong. And at the time, when people were saying, you can be happy without drugs, you can be feeling good without them, I was like, nah, this is not possible. It's the only thing today that is making me feel good. So how can you tell me that? And I could really not imagine that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, now I've been 5 years away from all of that. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen that sometimes I'm having a beer or I smoke a cigarette during a party. What I'm saying is that I'm not using that to feel good. I'm using that to have fun, which is like total difference. And I can also have fun without it. I have that freedom of being like saying, hey, I'm not rejecting it. I'm not subject to it. I'm just accepting whatever feels right for me.
Fully understand that feeling as well. But what led you into, I guess, exploring down that avenue?
So there are multiple factors. One of the first factors that really influenced me into that is that I grew up with ADHD, and I've never been diagnosed. I've been diagnosed when I was 27. So all my life I was having mental dysfunction that I didn't know about. And the only way most of the society was treating that was by pushing me even more into working, into doing more things. Like I had difficulty focusing on mathematics, so the teacher would give me more work, and that just overwhelmed me. That was just like so hard, and that created that belief that I'm not good, that I'm not able to do things. I could see other students just having good marks and doing things very well, and I was like, how is it possible that they're doing naturally something like I cannot do that? It seems impossible for me. And so I started to identify myself as a misfit, as someone who is a failure, and I started seeing that the other kids in class who were also having this kind of problems, they were drinking, consuming drugs. So slowly I started moving towards that. And then at one point I started taking drugs. When you have ADHD, you have like too much energy and you need to move all the time, and you're like, oh, so I'm nervous, I need to move. But then you start smoking weed, and weed just calms you down and makes you feel like, hey, I can be seated all day and feeling good about it. Because when you have that kind of energy, that kind of nervousness, you need to run, you need to have physical activity every day, at least like 3 hours, especially as a kid. And so weed started making me feel good. But then, if you've already smoked weed, you know that you're losing focus and you're not very present. So then when I started taking cocaine, I was like, oh my God, I can feel calm, but I can also be focused. So drugs were a way of self-medication. But the other flip side is when you self-medicate with that kind of drugs, people start labeling you as a junkie. So it's also a way of going even down and lower into that feeling of I'm not part of society. And that just create a feeling of rejection because you have a problem that you cannot explain to people. And the only way you find by yourself to solve it, which is not really a solution, but it's a way to just like bypass it, is by taking these drugs that are making you even more of a problem for society, the way it perceives it. So yeah, basically that's how I got there, and then it just starting to be a snowball effect of like reinforcing that belief that I'm not made to be in society. So at one point I just, as drugs were expensive, started selling them and just like starting just leave the regular path of society and being okay, I'm not made for that. You know, I'm feeling more accepted by people who are like that.
Wow, I didn't really think about that, especially with the ADHD aspect of things. And even with that, I'm thinking, well, once you take cocaine, for example, your senses are now even much higher, and you just want to go everywhere and everywhere. So it's like really ADHD to like the max.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned your choice to stop all this.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like you just chose it because you looked at it, you're like, guess what? There must be a better way and healthier way of actually living life in that aspect.
Exactly.
With you going through that, was there any support from family or friends or colleagues, or was it really just the social media pumping inspiration feeds into you, thinking that, hey, guess what? I can do better?
So there was like, so my family still had like issue understanding that, but they just gave me like, when they saw my changes, really showed me that they were like supporting it. And I mean, with the experience I have now as a practitioner where I'm helping people, I know that it's very hard to be able to emotionally and mentally support someone that is going through that kind of problems, you know, because generally, you know, you have a problem, but you don't know how to explain it. You know, it's like sometimes you might wake up and you feel grumpy and you don't know why you're feeling grumpy. You just know you're feeling grumpy. And very often people want to know why you're feeling like that, and then you cannot explain it. You're just like, I don't know, I just feel bad, you know. So it requires a lot of patience. And I mean, I was very lucky because the day I decided I would get off of drugs, I met this very amazing woman that I just fell in love with, and she fell in love with me. And so for a few months, I had a very beautiful love story with her. And she was very compassionate, and she saw that I was making effort even though I was struggling. I think that if anyone wants to get out of drugs, having a support or even having people that know what you're going through and being able to send a message, hey, I don't feel good today. You don't have to do anything, but just know that I don't feel good is very important. Having people, they don't need to carry you, but just to be in that presence of like, hey, you know, like I see you making effort, and just being acknowledging the effort you're making is very important. And I would recommend to anyone to do that. But most of the work has to be done from yourself, from this desire of I'm gonna change, and then report what you're doing, saying, hey, that's my evolution, that's where I'm going. But yeah, most of the thing I did in the beginning was by myself, and I know that I'm looking back, I understand that most of it was by myself because of the shame. You know, when society creates a lot of shame around drug use, sexual behaviors, and everything that is deviant is shamed, and shame create a desire of secrecy. You don't want to know that, you don't want people to know that you are doing this thing because you're scared of them judging you even more. This is this fear of rejection, because we need to be accepted. It's human. The desire of being accepted is human. We know from our childhood that we cannot survive without others. If you look at any kind of mammals, you take a cow, you take a sheep, after a few minutes, after their birth, they can start walking, they can start like licking themselves, eating a bit of grass. A human baby needs at least 5 years to stand up and start speaking, you know. So the first 5 years of your life, you know subconsciously that you're dependent from the other people around you, and that creates that desire of bonding, that need of bonding. We don't want to feel needy, but we are needy of bonding. And shame has a huge create huge pain on people, because we know that the things that are shameful might get us to be rejected. So we want to hide the problems we have, but by hiding the problems we have, we're not solving them, we're just making them worse. You know, it's like if you have a stone in your shoe and you're just telling yourself I'm okay, you're just gonna hurt yourself more and more and more. The only way to be able to solve it is to just stop, sit down, take off your shoes, take the stone out and say, I'm hurt here, I cannot walk anymore. And the biggest problem for most of people who have this kind of trauma, I mean, these are like symptoms of trauma. For people who have trauma that translate through addiction, through fear, shame, whatever, they have difficulty talking about it. And the first step for recovery is saying, hey, I'm suffering here and I need to take a break and I need people to see my pain here. So yeah, I'm kind of like losing myself. The reason why I really started doing things on social media is because I was ashamed of sharing these stories. And then when I started watching all these videos and meeting all these people and realizing that I'm not alone, that most of the people on this planet have problems. The society in general is acknowledging a few drugs like coffee, tobacco, alcohol. These drugs are accepted, and we don't see them as a problem as long as you're functional in the way society, as long as you're productive, as long as you're making money. You can be an alcoholic, you can be a drug addict, but the moment you start having this kind of like financial problem or whatever, productivity problems, people start saying, oh, it's because of alcohol, it's because of that. But these are just symptoms. Yeah.
Wow. I could listen to you all day talking about that, because I'm visualizing that stone in my shoe, and it really, that's what it really is. And I love the fact that you used the word shame. I never really thought about it in that sense, and I'm going over all my previous podcasts that I've done before, and it's, when you come down to it, it really is that word shame that comes with it. A lot of people, they hide themselves, they hide features, they hide emotions, they hide things that they're going through because of that shame, because of they don't want to be an outcast to society. They don't want to make it seem like they're not perfect in society. And I love how you said that. That's the first time I've actually heard anyone I guess show it that way or depict it that way, which is fantastic. That was beautiful. that was awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm just really thinking, like, I run a lot, so I've ran on dirt trails and I've been on like just the normal streets, and I'll get rocks in my shoes, and it really is up to you. Like, you continue running or walking or living life with a rock in your shoe, or do you stop and say, hey, guess what, this is hurting me, I need to take it out. And when you take it out, then you actually have that comfort, you actually have that freedom and such. And that doesn't have to go, that could be with relationships, that could go with even like family members, it could be with this, it could be with that. It's sometimes you just got to take it out, not hurt them, but really just end what's causing you that pain, and cut ties with that person. Therefore you can actually live a more happier and joyous life that way. So thank you for that. So
I mean,
going to go ahead.
I was just going to say, cutting ties with people, taking a break with people is also a way to come back with more love, because people who make you suffer, who are, people who you believe are toxic in your life, they're suffering from the same thing as you. And their toxicity is them hiding their pain. And while you hide your pain, you're projecting into others. So taking a break from people, saying, hey, I don't want to be around you for some time, and healing that is the ability to come back with more love and saying, now that I've healed that in me, I can support you. I I can love you because now it's not a pain in me, it's becoming a strength.
Trust me, I could relate to that. I don't want to get into it, but I could definitely relate to it.
Yeah.
Let's moving on.
Yeah.
We'll definitely talk after.
Yeah.
With all that being said, so you go through this road of recovery, and now you chose to now help others. So how are you doing that? Do you have a website, a book, lessons online, courses online? What are you doing to help others?
So I had an online course, but now it's gonna be over right now. I'm gonna create a new one. So I have a few programs I'm doing one-on-one. It's different. I have different programs. It's mostly generally based on how to improve your daily life so you can create a routine of independence. I love coaching people, but I also love giving tools for people to be independent, and then once in a while having a coach, because I don't believe you need a coach to heal. You need just someone to talk to mostly. That's the most important, is someone that is acknowledging you and supporting you. Having a professional is needed when you have like very big problems, but most of the people, they just need to have tools on how to manage their emotions. So I create programs where I'm teaching these tools. Like I had an interview where I was mentioning that I created a new program where I'm teaching how to make self-hypnosis, and the person was like, well, you're a hypnotherapist, so you're losing clients by giving them this tool. I'm like, no, I'm not losing clients, I'm getting people freedom, and that's more important. I love working with people, but I want them to feel free and not being like, oh my god, I need to see a therapist every week, I'm dependent on the therapist. I'm sharing a lot of tools on my Instagram right now. It's called The Best of Asha, and almost weekly I share a few videos, few things. I am also very open to give free advice to anyone who would reach out to me. I'm always like learning new things and creating new things, and for me it's really, there's three phases into how someone can help themselves. The first phase is awareness. The first phase is noticing that there is something in your shoe that is hurting you and saying, hey, every time I'm stepping on it, it's hurting me. Then the second phase is to understand what emotions that is bringing to you. It's just like, hey, this is bringing pain, this is bringing anger, and understand what is that emotion creating in your life, and say, oh, every time I'm angry, I'm self-sabotaging. And then the third part is to express it, to extract it, and say, oh, I need to process that emotion in a way. And that can be done in different ways. Each person has more have their own perks, and some people love talking. That's why some people, they just talk a lot and they journal and they share everything they have and they feel better about it. Other people need to do art expression, like painting, dancing, or other people, like you, might just be running and just like burning that energy and feeling better. We all have different ways of doing, and that's why I'm creating different programs, because I want them to be adapted to everybody. Some people love talking, as I said, but that you need some like clarity and preciseness, where you need to know what's going on. I love abstract art, because abstract art just, it's a way of putting your emotion without having to talk about it. A lot of people, when you have a lot of shame, for example, shame being one of the main reasons why people are not getting out of their problems, because they have this problem of accepting it. When you do abstract art, when you take a piece of paper and just put a lot of color, of shapes, whatever, you're just translating your emotion in a way that you don't need to explain them. You just say, that's how I feel. You don't understand it. It might be just a black spot, but that's how I feel. And doing that on a regular basis is just so much healing. And that's why abstract art in general is just like so expensive. It's because people have like so much value into that, like emotions that are being transmitted, and that people don't understand it, but there is a lot of emotion being done into that.
Yes, I'm a huge abstract art fan, because
Yeah.
no one could tell you what that picture is. It really is, and it's just an expression of somebody. And like you said, I remember I went to an art gallery, and it was just someone painted a whole canvas black and then put a white dot, usually people are like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, the white dot's in the middle. I'm like, no, the white dot was actually at the corner. Like, why did they do
Yeah.
that? And then you read the caption, just like, this is how I feel in like, this is how I feel, me trapped in a corner of a room.
It's, I mean, expression of the self is one of the things we need the most as humans.
Mm-hmm.
If you just look at society, what we're creating, and we as humans, especially since the early beginning of the humans, we started painting on walls. And today we can talk, we can draw, we can write, we can dance. There's so many ways of expressing ourselves naturally, just the body language, just the emotion we have. And then we carry devices that are just about communication, all the smartphones that we're all crazy about. It's just for texting, it's just for sending messages. And then social media is the biggest self-expression platform we're all crazy about. So when you understand that all we want is just to express ourselves, and most of the people on social media are not expressing themselves, they're just sharing memes that they see, and that's what creating that feeling of lack, and they don't like social media but still addicted to them because they're not using them in a good way. I think if everybody every day would write things on social media in a way that would be more expressive of what they are feeling, people would love so much more social media, and people would feel so much better because they would feel that connection. You know, like we're talking about connecting through social media, but people are not sharing who they are. They're just sharing things that they would want to be loved for.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment you are loved for the best and the worst, that's the moment really like your life becomes better. You know, like in a wedding, they're saying we're marrying for the best and the worst. And that's true love. True love is that it's saying, I'm not here just for your best moment or the worst moment. You know, when I'm coaching people about love, I'm saying, you know, like the person you want to fall in love with is the person you meet in the supermarket when you're in a rush and you want to buy a bottle of milk and you're wearing, you know, like your Sunday clothes, watching a movie. And that's your average self. You know, the person that is not on the top, not on the lowest, that's the person you will be in love with the most of the time. You know, when you wake up next to someone, they don't look the best, you know, and that's the person you need to love, and that's how you need to be loved.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's really just how to be a very wholesome, and be honest and true to yourself, to express how you really feel, and just really who you are. I find that a lot of people nowadays, they hide behind social media, they hide behind the phone, they hide behind all this stuff, and they begin to lose themselves now versus I guess 15 years ago, 10 years ago. It's a very different society that we live in nowadays. And I'm glad you mentioned with the meme thing. It's true, because a lot of people, like, they just share memes. That's all they do, is they share the memes, but where is your creativity to show what your expression, where's your ideas through social media to get other people to say, hey, guess what, I understand you, let me not retweet what you're doing or repost what you're doing, but let me add on to it. And therefore they have their own part of it. It really is, when you think about it, I'm thinking about the abstract art where you have a blank canvas, one person writes or one person draws one part here, and they pass it along to the next person, and that person draws and they pass it on, and then it just becomes really a social art. That'll be
exactly. It's like the idea of like adding on, improving things. That's exactly what we humans are. You know, like we are a better version of our parents. You know, in a genetic way, our parents are giving our genes, and we are mating with other people and passing on the best genes. You know, we're like always improving. That's how creativity works. Creativity works by being inspired by others, and then digesting all of this information, saying, oh, I got this from that person, this from that person, but then again, I just want to give back that, and some part of it discarded. And we are creators. You know, like in the Bible, they're saying that we were creating to the image of God. And I don't believe the image of God is like being someone in the sky with a long white beard. But I think he's a creator. And in that sense, without being creation, I realize that this philosophy really applies into my life, that I am a creator of my own life, and I am to the image of God. Of creating things. And that's why I always say to people, do art, do whatever, even cooking, whatever you want to do that is creative, take inspiration from others, learn from others, but then put your own thing inside of it, do something a little bit different. And that's how you find a sense of like aliveness, of like, this is my work.
Yes, I fully agree with you. I love this. There's a few people that I talk to that when we talk, I visualize things when they talk. And I'm loving the abstract art aspect of our conversation. I'm loving the fact that I could visualize, and I can also have that relatable feeling of that rock in my shoe when I'm running. And then to have it relating to something like shame, to have it being related to the abstract art of the expression of yourself and social media aspect of it, I'm loving it. And it really is making my mind, the gears are turning in a sense, which is fantastic. With all that being said, through all your practices, through all your life, I guess, experience that you have you ever been into a situation where you're just like, guess what? Like, how do I overcome these odds? And through your hypnosis therapy, how do you use that to combat it?
So I believe that we all are born with huge amount of creativity and huge amount of resources, but then society as we know it today is really creating a lot of blocks. I'm gonna go back with that idea of running. So we are in a society put us in a race. We were put in school and we said like, you need to be running at the same speed. And some people have a backpack full of rocks. Some people have a lot of rocks in their shoes. And some people have it very easy. They have like the very best running shoe. They have no backpack and they just train to be running, and they're like having a head start. And we believe we need to finish the race all in the same time. And that's where we create these mental blocks of like saying, hey, if I'm taking a break right now and I'm taking off the stones that I have in my shoes, I'm gonna be late I'm gonna fail for sure. So what we're doing is we making ourselves suffer to try to be on the same time as everybody. And that creates all these problems of like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not succeeding. And then we create these things that, well, other people have it easy, I don't have it easy, that means that I'm not good. And that created all this problem. And with hypnosis, you already change the mindset you have. Like you probably have heard about positive affirmations. So throughout our life, we are repeating this affirmation of I'm not good or I'm good. And then many people are trying to rewire their brains for 1 hour every day saying positive affirmation. But then when you do 20 minutes of hypnosis, you're making so much more progress than if you do 1 hour every day for 1 month of positive affirmation, because your body is what is in the present moment, is what is real. Your mind is not real. Your mind is just an interpretation of what's happening in the world. It's translating. You see things, you feel things, and the mind is just translating what's happening. If you're hot or you feel angry or you feel excited, for the body, you're just giving you information and you're trying to understand what's going on with your mind. It's like, oh, you feel like your heart is beating, you feel hot, you just, oh, am I excited or am I angry? Like the feeling is pretty much the same. Or maybe someone is late and you like, your mind is gonna be like, oh, this person is disrespecting me because they're late. So your mind is interpreting things with a very limited perception, and that is what's creating all these limiting beliefs. That's what is creating that self-sabotage. So using techniques like hypnosis is rewiring all these beliefs and saying, hey, no, I can create the beliefs I want. It's like, when you make an update on your phone, I really compare hypnosis like updating your phone. Your phone has a set of abilities, but then you can download a new app, you can download a new software, and your phone is doing new things. And that's the same thing with hypnosis. You can download new belief inside of your subconscious and then start applying them. It might not be magic every time and being like, oh, I can do things I couldn't do, but many cases it does happen, and then with practice you just make like huge jumps. So hypnosis is very amazing for that. Then if you don't like hypnosis, there's other techniques you can use. You can use meditation, you can use physical activities, or you can use like trauma release. There is like different techniques. I'm not going to expand on that because there's much if someone wants really to know. But what I really want to say is that you can very easily change the wiring that you have in your brain.
That is awesome to know as well, because again, I'm picturing it, and I love the pictures, and I'm really thinking of, and it's true that you said about we're all running the same race, but some of us we do have rocks, we do have chains holding us back. We have a lot of things holding us back, but unfortunately, like with social media, with society, we are again with Instagram and all this other stuff, it looks like our life needs to be predetermined already, as in the sense that like when you hit a certain age, you have to hit this milestone, and that's it. You have to have kids at this age, you have to get married at this age, or else you're deemed a failure in society, and so on and so forth. That unfortunately, we get reprogrammed when we're growing up to say, okay, this is what life is supposed to be. But then what you're trying to say is like that new update into our mind now. It's like instead of a path going straight and following society, guess what? Let's reroute it. Let's change it. Let's change and do things what's best for us in that aspect. And hopefully, not really hopefully, just doing it, you just say, guess what? Like, this is how I want to live my life, because one, life is short. no matter what people think, the life that we're living now, it's very short, and we have to make the most of it, and we have to be very happy. We have to make those choices to make ourselves happy in regards to it. So once we reprogram ourselves and do that new update, we're finding a path that makes us happier, and we're finding a path that makes us more lighter on our feet, as in throwing away those stones, throwing away those rocks, removing the rock from our shoe, for example. We're doing all of that when we do that update, and it's just it's fantastic how that would work in that aspect of things.
Exactly. Cool. I mean, you know, like I think in the past, having these predefined steps in life was necessary. You know, when people were living in the Middle Age, where Viking, I mean, I'm talking about Europe, you know, when Viking tribes could come and start killing everybody, and people would die around 45, would be like very old, you know. That was a time when there was a scarcity even more than today. Today we can live until 80 and have a good life. But at the time, there was a huge scarcity and survival needs, you know, where death can happen at any time. So we need to do things in this order. But today, we're in a stage where we have access to everybody, where technically we should be at peace with the rest of the world, because we know from around the world that there is just humans here. There is no like alien race. I mean, at the time when there was a tiger, there was wolves that could eat you, there was this scarcity. And now somehow we still conflicting with each other, as we are all humans, you know. We're not enemies. We're just all brothers. We just like live in different areas of the world. And when people will start to understand that we can work together, we don't have to fight with each other, that actually when we're working together, we're making it easier for everybody. And when that's going to be understood, people will have this easiness of like, hey, we don't have to do everything by ourselves. We're not in that scarcity anything anywhere. I can rely on others to provide for me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that one too. I'm loving this conversation, Asha. It's fantastic. I'm loving it. But you're making great points in that aspect. Is we see so much advancement around us, and even like I just had a picture of like the school system, for example. It has not advanced the way it's supposed to be. In honesty, it's very that needs to be wiped clean and just revamped in that aspect of things. But again, it's just like the other things, just like we're going through society. We have to understand that you're right. We're not living until we're 30, 40s, and we have to get married at such a young age. We're living longer,
Yeah,
and we need to really make those milestones, but our milestones, not society's milestones. So
yeah, exactly.
very, very, very interesting in regards to that. Anything that you'd like to say, like any last words or anything that's on your mind you'd like
um
to reach out to?
Yeah, well, there's one thing, regarding to this milestone, you need to get out of your comfort zone, not out of someone else's comfort zone. The internet makes you believe with this milestone that at that age you need to be doing this and that, and people make themselves suffer with like, oh, I need to get out of my comfort zone, but where is your comfort zone? It's not someone else's comfort. I see often people getting out of someone else's comfort zone, and being like, hey, I see these people are doing this, so I'm gonna do the same as them. Don't do the same as them. Get their mindset, but don't behave like other people. Don't do like other people. Very often they're saying, if you want to succeed in something else, in something, find someone and model them and do like they do. And I realize that if you want to do like they do, you're living their life. If you behave like they do, if you do with what you have but behave like they do, you're gonna be able to on your own terms do things. Like I was talking with someone that was like, oh, I want to help people, but I can't. I'm like, why can't you help people? Yeah, because I don't have the resources, I don't have the money. I'm like, well, you're looking at someone on the internet that's helping 10,000 people because they're a millionaire and they're able to do it. But if you behave like they do, you don't have to do help 10,000 people, but you can help one person. So you're behaving in that way, but you're not doing the same way. So look where you are and behave like the people you want to become from the place you are in, and have that honesty of saying, I might not be helping 10,000 people, but I'm helping one person. That's already more than nothing. And that's, after helping one person, you might be helping two people, and then five.
You're absolutely on that one. Again, when I'm looking at it, and we talked about this earlier, it's having this podcast here. I look at it as they always call it well, there's a saying of the pyramid scheme, for example.
Yeah.
What I want to do, it's really is just that help that one person, and from that one person, they have that inspiration, and then they bring that inspiration to other people. Other people will say, hey, guess what? I've heard your story or heard your experience. How do I do this? And it just grows that way.
Exactly.
And you're right. Like you don't need to be a millionaire for anything. Honestly, you go up to any person that you see on the street and say, hey, guess what? Have a good day. Keep it up. You're beautiful. You're this, you're that, but show positivity in that aspect.
Exactly.
And that minor spark of positivity will make a huge change in a lot of people's lives, because I'm pretty sure there's stories out there where somebody just said hi to someone or good morning, and they could have been having like a rough day so far, and they really probably that day they wanted to end their life or do this or do that, and just because of someone saying that small word. And people need to understand words have so much power in it that once you pump positivity, and it's sad to say, but it goes both ways, because words hold so much power in it. If it's positive, it has a great positive aspect into it. If it's negative, unfortunately, it has a negative result with it as well. So the best thing to do is hit that positivity, show and express positivity in your everyday life. Go up to strangers, not really just run up to them, but if you see them like on a bus or whatever like that, and you want to give them a compliment, say a good compliment to them, because some people really need that, I believe, now more than anything. As we were talking about earlier with COVID, everyone was shut out from the world. It was just social media. You couldn't even see people's faces because of the mask. But again, as people, we need to actually flock with people to actually gain that energy, to gain that positivity from others. But COVID really, when that happened, it really shut off people, and a lot of people went negative. A lot of people went dark, unfortunately. So now that things have calmed down, now it's trying to, I guess, express that positivity, express those good compliments to, I guess, rejuvenate society once again.
Exactly. I mean, like they say no one's gonna help you or no one's gonna save you or whatever. And I don't believe in that. I believe that if we start helping each other, the world is going to be easier. It can be a very simple thing, you know, like help one person or two people next to you the way you can, and the world's going to be better. You know, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to change the world. If you change yourself and change the next person, by butterfly effect, the world will change in a few years.
Correct. Asha, it's fantastic conversation. I'm good. I'm not sure if you have anything else you got to say.
I think I'm pretty good. Yeah, I just want to say that if anyone wants to reach out to me, they can find me on the best of Asha on Instagram, and I will share a small program for people who have ADHD or who have like drug addiction. The first step they can do, and I will send that to you. So people who look at this podcast and they're like, oh, hey, I have ADHD or I have addiction and I want to get out of it, they will have the first few steps they can do, and that's just gonna help them, I guess. I hope.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Asha.
My pleasure.